The city of Manila woke up each morning to the sound of chaos, the honking of buses, the cries of vendors, and the restless hum of 1,000 lives chasing survival. But among the noise, there was one sound that made people pause. A small, trembling voice that carried more emotion than any melody on the radio. It belonged to Liam Santos, a 10-year-old boy with dust on his feet and dreams in his heart. When the signal turned red, he sang, not for fame, not for applause, but for a few coins to take home to his mother. Yet those who stopped to listen often forgot to move when the light turned green. His voice had something raw, something pure, that made even strangers feel the weight of his little world. Behind that small boy was a broken home built from tin sheets and wooden scraps. His mother, Rosa, worked long hours washing other people's clothes. She never complained, never cried, at least not in front of Liam. The walls of their house were thin, but her love was thick enough to hold them together. At night when the city lights faded and the air grew quiet, Liam would sit on the edge of their small bed looking at a faded photograph of his late father, a man who once played guitar at church, now just a memory buried under the weight of poverty. He would whisper to the photo, promising that one day his voice would reach beyond the slums. And so he sang every day, through hunger, through rain, through exhaustion. His songs weren't perfect, but they were honest. They carried the ache of every empty stomach, every tear his mother hid behind her smile. The narrator's voice rises softly. What if the smallest voice, born in the darkest corners of life, could reach the hearts of millions? What if pain itself could sing and the world finally listened? And just like that, the story of a boy who sang his way out of silence begins. Days passed like the wind, quiet, unnoticed, heavy with struggle. Yet in the small corners of their simple home, dreams still lived. Rosa Santos often watched her son sing beside the candlelight after dinner. His voice carried hope, rising above the cracks of their leaking roof. For her, those few minutes each night were more than music. They were proof that poverty had not yet stolen everything. One evening, while waiting for laundry at a neighbor's shop, Rosa overheard a conversation playing on a small television. America's Got Talent 2025, open auditions. The words felt unreal, like a whisper from the heavens. She imagined Liam standing on that massive stage, not as a poor boy from Manila, but as someone the world could finally see. But how could a mother who barely earned enough for rice afford a dream that big? Still, that night, she told Liam. His eyes widened, not with fear, but with the kind of wonder only a child can hold. He didn't ask how, he just believed. The next week, Rosa took him to a local event where a small nonprofit organization filmed talented children to raise donations for schooling. When Liam sang, the volunteers fell silent. One of them recorded his voice and posted it online. Within days, it spread across social media, shared, reshared, and finally seen by someone from the AGT outreach team. A call came weeks later. The words felt like magic, but the reality was harsh. No passports, no money, no idea how to get there. Yet, when the local community heard, donations began to pour in. A few pesos from street vendors, a flight ticket from a sponsor, and a suitcase borrowed from a kind neighbor. As Liam boarded the plane for the first time, he looked out the window, clutching a faded photo of his father. The clouds floated beneath them like giant dreams. Rosa sat beside him, holding his tiny hand, whispering silent prayers. The boy who once sang beneath the traffic lights was now flying toward the brightest one of all, a stage that waited for his voice. The lights of Los Angeles felt unreal, brighter, bigger, and louder than anything Liam had ever seen. For a boy who had grown up among narrow alleys and cracked pavements, the city looked like another planet. Every billboard glowed, every street seemed to hum with promise. Yet inside, he carried the same heartbeat, nervous, small, and unsure. The day of the audition arrived. The America's Got Talent venue stood before him like a shining castle. He watched other contestants laughing, rehearsing, and taking selfies. Some had trainers, managers, even makeup artists. Liam only had his mother and an old microphone wrapped in black tape, the same one his father had once used to sing lullabies. Backstage, Rosa brushed the wrinkles off his thrifted shirt. Around him, dancers stretched, magicians practiced, and singers vocalized loudly. Liam stayed quiet. His eyes wandered toward the curtains, where he could glimpse flashes of the stage lights. It was too big, too bright, a world he wasn't sure he belonged in. Then, a producer called his name. Next up, Liam Santos from the Philippines. The judges looked curious, Simon Cowell among them, his expression unreadable. Cameras zoomed in on the tiny figure standing alone under the massive spotlight. The host asked a few questions, and though the words were simple, Liam's accent trembled. But when the music began, everything changed. The fear melted into the melody. His voice, gentle yet powerful, filled the entire auditorium, rising, trembling, and then soaring. He sang of love, loss, and dreams, of a boy who once sang for coins but never gave up. The song carried the ache of hunger, the warmth of a mother's love, and the whisper of a father long gone. The audience went silent, as if time itself stopped to listen. Even Simon's face softened, his eyes glistened with unspoken emotion. When the final note ended, there was no sound for a moment, just breathless awe. Then came a roar, a standing ovation that shook the entire hall. The poor boy from Manila had made the world listen. For a few seconds after Liam's final note faded, the world seemed to forget how to breathe. The air in the Grand AGT auditorium was thick with silence, not the kind that comes from emptiness, but from emotion too deep to put into words. Thousands of eyes stayed locked on the small boy standing under the golden light, trembling, his chest rising and falling as he tried to understand what had just happened. Then a single pair of hands began to clap, soft, slow, sincere. It was Simon Cowell. His applause grew louder, and within moments, the entire crowd followed, rising to their feet. The cheers swelled like a wave breaking through the silence. Confetti hadn't fallen yet, but the emotion already had. Simon leaned forward, his usual sharp expression softened, eyes glistening under the stage lights. It wasn't just the voice that moved him, it was the truth behind it. The courage of a boy who had faced life's harshest storms and still found a song within the noise. As the applause echoed, Simon's hand slowly reached toward the golden button in front of him. Time seemed to freeze. Liam's eyes widened, and Rosa, watching from the sidelines, covered her mouth, her tears streaming freely. Then, with one firm press, the golden buzzer exploded into life. Golden confetti burst from above, falling like blessings from the heavens. The crowd screamed, the judges smiled, and Simon stood, looking at Liam with something rare in his eyes, admiration. The golden rain touched the boy's hair, his clothes, his trembling hands. He looked up, his face bathed in gold, his tears mixing with the glitter. Rosa ran onto the stage, pulling her son into her arms. They stood there, mother and child, in a moment that felt eternal. Cameras flashed, but what shone brighter was the love between them. In that single moment, the world wasn't divided by wealth, race, or language. It was united by a voice, one that came from a boy who had nothing but gave everything. The poor boy from the slums had just turned his pain into gold.